That's perfect, right?
Yeah. You want to lower it?
I wanna
Don't count it. Doesn't even look
spend 700 on
it. Looks like a microphone.
I put the 4 boxes and zoom in.
Alright, we should get off the stage.
Assalamualaikum, brothers. There are more space on the other side. Please don't stand around this area. Go in the other side, the old side.
How much space on that side?
Just in the back.
Or we can push a little bit this partition?
We can, but
Yeah, this way. Because there's a lot of space there on the other side.
who's in it?
That's gonna be funny because like all this is in this
No, because apparently they got more things. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the Executive Committee and Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome all of you in our event. I'd like to request Mufti Azimuddin, come to the stage, please take your seat so we can start our program, inshallah. Inshallah, our moderator will introduce our guest speaker with his bio once again, and we are grateful for your attendance, and inshallah we all will be benefited for our programs, and may Allah give the ability to our chef come Jamaica Muslim Center and give the lecture, so we will be benefited inshallah. For the due, I'd like to request Hamdan Islam come to the microphone on behalf of JMC, who will moderate this program, inshallah. Our JMC youth group will moderate these programs, and I'll hand it over to Mike Hamdan Islam, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب يسر ولا تعسر وتممه لنا بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا عليم. Respected brothers and elders, honorable mothers and sisters, we begin by praising Allah Ta'ala and by thanking Him for gathering us here. Inshallah, we would like to begin in the best of ways with the kalam of Allah Ta'ala. So for this, I'd like to call up Hafiz Tashdeed to recite from the Holy Quran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون صدق الله العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته
MashaAllah, what a beautiful recitation of the Quran. May Allah Ta'ala accept him and those who helped him learn his book. Hafiz Tashdid is a graduate of our James C. Hafiz Academy, one of the many programs at Jamaica Muslim Center. Just to give you guys an idea of what James C. Youth is about, just to let everybody know, alhamdulillah, by the tawfiq of Allah Ta'ala, James C. Youth has weekly programs for both the brothers and sisters. The brothers program is on Friday. Age groups 10 to 13 meet from 6 to 7:45 p.m. Again, 10 to 13-year-olds from 6 to 7:45 p.m. And from the high school brothers, the 14 and up, 8 to 10 p.m. The high school brothers, 14 and up, 8 to 10 p.m. The sister sorority program meets every Sunday from 2 o'clock to 4 p.m. Both the programs happen here in the basement. So we encourage all the youth to join us for a very fun educational environment in our attempt to grow closer to the Deen of Allah Ta'ala and to the masjid. So moving on to the main program, to introduce our Sheikh. Mufti Azimuddin was born and raised in Chicago and currently serves as a director of Masjid Darus Salam. He memorized the Quran at a very young age and then went on to complete his Alamiya course and Iftar course. He also earned a bachelor's degree in psychology and served as a director of the AIA Masjid. Mufti Azimuddin studied with Mufti Rada'ul Haq, a world-leading jurist. So without further ado, Mufti Azimuddin. Mufti Saab is missing his phone, so...
1 plus 1. 1 plus 5.
It's a 1 plus 5. So if anyone can find it, please return it to me or Brother Abu Hurairah.
يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح. And the brothers and sisters here in the back? No. So, you do. Get the other mic. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
James, you. So we'll get started. We don't have much time. Till 9:30 is not very sharp. We have a few minutes before that. So if you see any gaps in front of you, just fill that up, inshallah. All the brothers are requested to move up, so there's a lot of brothers all the way in the back who can't see or hear. Especially if this mic is not even working properly, we need everyone to sit close together.
Is he in? Which mic? They want to jack in the back.
Try and speak.
Is this better? Can you hear now a bit better, inshallah? Yes.
It's good, it's good, it's good. It's good, it's good.
Okay, the sisters can hear clearly? We can hear you say no. So I'll begin, inshallah ta'ala, as they work on their technical things. Yeah, improve. So, Jazakumullah khair for inviting us here tonight, and I appreciate and thank everyone in JMC here, and especially a deep appreciation for Imam Mujahid for his genuine sincerity and love that he always expresses and shows, which brings us back here again and again. And we all ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward him, his students, his staff, and all those who are working in service here, also brothers and sisters in this community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all tremendously and increase the muhabba and love that you all have, and fulfill all the needs, spiritual, physical, mental, financial needs that you all may have over here. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. So we've gathered here tonight, a night before the 15th of Sha'ban, to discuss how we can welcome the month of Ramadan. In the Muslim world, welcoming Ramadan is a big cultural thing. It's welcoming Ramadan, the way, unfortunately, Hallmark, the way is taken holidays and made everything into commercialized it. Eid and Ramadan in the Muslim world has a very commercial undertone to it. If you travel abroad, you will notice that. So tons of money is made in this month because people tend to understand Ramadan as a festive occasion. And if you ask a non-Muslim, maybe a co-worker, classmate, etc., they probably have the same perspective, that Ramadan is a month of festivities. If you probably check in your local newspaper, especially in your college newspaper or whatnot, if you have one paragraph written there, what will be written there is that this is a month where Muslims gather together, they fast. They don't discuss how much they had to fast or how long it was, and then they end the day with a big feast. And they'll always have a picture of people eating. So if you go in Google Images, and I haven't tried this, but I'm probably not right. I probably am right. If you were to try to put their Ramadan fasting, you won't see probably pictures of people with sunken eyes and bones showing and malnutrition people looking like they're about to pass out because they haven't eaten or drunk anything. Instead, you will see well-bodied, well-able people sitting around insane amounts of food. That will be your Google images of Ramadan fasting. Okay, you can try it and let me know sometime, not now. Don't be on your phones now. But this is something which is a complete misunderstanding, a PR failure on our part, that Ramadan is understood to be this. Back in grade school, 4th grade, the newspaper, local newspaper, the Daily Herald it was, I think, came to our school. They said, we want to write up an article about Islam. This is when, back in the days in the 90s, when people didn't know what Islam was. You know what I mean? People thought, they didn't know exactly what Islam was. It was very foreign to them, not what it is now. So they said, we want to write an article and we have a picture. So then the school chose me to be part of that. And they told me, I said, what should I do? I'm in 4th grade. They said, oh, you just need to raise your hand, act like you're making dua, and then have a, they put a platter of food, etc., and took a picture of that. I remember that till now. That the picture has always been of us breaking fast with a lot of food. And this is not it is not what I should say, misrepresentation of our fast today. It actually is a very true representation of our fast. Although it is a very big misrepresentation of what fasting is supposed to be about. That's what we're speaking about here. That fasting is supposed to be a month, not of festivities. Festivity comes in Eid for a little bit, and the main festivity comes in the qabr, in the grave, and in the akhirah when you see Ramadan was accepted. But before that, it's not payday. You don't show up the first day to work and say, hey, where's my salary? Where's my paycheck? You earn it first. So the first 29 days or 28 days of Ramadan, nights and days are about working. And if we work well and have been accepted by Allah, then inshallah our payday is Laylatul Jaizah, the night of Eid, when we get our rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the actual rewards, of course, in the hereafter. So respected friends, this month, as has been recited by Imam Sahib in the Salat al-Maghrib, and by the Hafiz Sahib now in the Tilawah, emphasizes on one thing. And then say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Same surah, same selection. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Fasting has been prescribed upon you the way it's been prescribed upon the prior people to you, so that you may gain God consciousness, taqwa. That's a core and essence of fasting. So we know it means to stay away from drinking and eating and marital relations the entire day from dawn to dusk. Okay? And the purpose of it is to create taqwa. How do you create taqwa? And what does fasting do to us, or it's supposed to do? It is supposed to curb our desires. Okay, my brothers and sisters, one of the biggest enemies we have, and the challenges that you and I face, is what we call the different types of lust that a human being has. Shahwat al-batin, shahwat al-farj, namely. The shahwa and the lust are the desire to fill one's belly, and number 2, the desire the sexual desire and appetite that a person has. These are the 2 main shahwat and lust that a person has. One leads to the other. When a person overeats, eats to his or her full, eats every single thing that they desire and they want, and they're not eating in order to simply get by, but instead it seems like they're living to eat. When you have all different forms, different colors, different sizes of different foods, and more than you can imagine, in a huge buffet lined up, this is gluttony. And this gluttony actually creates a lot of problems. Beyond the physical health problems, which are too numerous to count, it creates a lot of spiritual problems as well. Ramadan, if you travel in the Muslim world, you will be shocked to see, it is very sad to see not only skyrocketing of diabetes, okay, and skyrocketing of a whole bunch of other diseases, but skyrocketing of obesity, skyrocketing of israf in food, of extravagance in food. I just recently was there a few weeks ago, and subhanAllah, when you see every single dinner, every single lunch in any buffet, countless amount of food, and I would see, it would just hurt me so much to see that people will fill up. I mean, I'm telling you, in your life, you've never seen people like this. In your life, no an American restaurant, I guarantee you've ever seen like this. You will be shocked. One person is coming for breakfast to eat, and in front of him he's bringing 5 plates. 5 plates, 1 plate just of pastries and croissants. 1 plate filled 10 to 15 croissants. Then another plate filled with fruits. Another plate filled with all sorts of sausages and eggs and cheese. Another plate filled with all sorts of other yogurts and whatnot. And he literally, entire family together would not be able to finish that. And a person is sitting there, and does he finish it? No, of course not. He eats a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there. From a buffet, it's not like you order. From a buffet, bring it to the table, and then after that, they dump it and leave. And they come and throw it away. When you see, and then you see on the other hand, within 1,000 miles, no, 500 miles away, families upon families, entire neighborhoods have nothing to eat as we speak. While this type of extravagance, israf, is taking place, well, ilallahi mushtaka, to Allah we complain about our condition. And then we wonder, why are the Muslims suffering? Of course, what else is going to happen? When this is our pitiful, lowly condition of extravagance in food, and of israf, of tabdhir, of wastage, and absolute ingratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal for the blessings we have, while the people right next door to us are dying out of starvation, are dying out of malnutrition and so forth. So we have a very serious problem within the Muslim community and general community as well, within the Muslim community as well, of overeating, overindulgence in food, focused on food. Ramadan, my brothers and sisters, is not a month of festivities. It is not a month of eating extra fried items. It is not a month of having, how many of you have 2 items for, 6 items for dinner? Really, how many of you on an average day you go home and your mother cooks for you 6 dishes? Or, your sisters who are here, you're cooking 6 things for dinner. None of us do that. You have 1, maybe roti or bread, rice, and maybe 1 gravy, at max 2. That's it. If for dessert once in a week, maybe, most of the time we'll have maybe fruits or something like that. That's the normal deal that we have. Only when guests come, you do a little bit more than that. But Ramadan ends up becoming every single night a festival. Every single night a feast. Every single iftar that's held in a masjid or anywhere else must have 8 to 10 dishes. And what happens is that what a person doesn't eat the entire year ends up eating in Ramadan. So what usually we see, people, that's not a joke, people say, if you hear a non-Muslim next to you say you're fasting 18 hours a day, you'll say, my God, I don't know how you do that. You probably, lose like 20, 30 pounds, or more. And then instead you just laugh and you say, no, actually you end up gaining 20, 30 pounds. He sits there scratching his head, he says, wow, this is the biggest riddle I've ever heard in my life. You fast 18 hours a day for 30 days and you gain 20 pounds? How's that possible? But that's the case. That is the case. SubhanAllah, people end up gaining weight in Ramadan. How is that possible? It is simply a simple thing. They don't understand that the overindulgence that takes place during iftar, the overindulgence that takes place in suhoor, ends up becoming so unhealthy. It's not that we're eating less. Instead, we're eating more, but it's just we're changing the timings. So instead of eating it across 18 hours, we end up eating the same amount or more within 6 hours. Okay. So this is completely going to defeat the purpose of Ramadan. Completely defeat the purpose of fasting. And this is a very important topic in itself, because the purpose of fast is to create taqwa. Taqwa cannot be created through gluttony. Taqwa will not come into a person through overeating. Not going to work like that. Nabi ﷺ, may Allah, I say this and I'm in need of what I'm saying the most. And I pray Allah Azza wa Jal says everything I say allows me and all of us here to put it into practice. Say Ameen. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Kafali bin Adam. It is sufficient for the son of Adam. Something along the lines, the Prophet ﷺ said, Luqaymat yukhibna biha sulba. A few morsels. Luqayma is tasghir. If it's a diminutive form means small. Not luqma, luqayma. Alright, a small morsel. Luqaymat, few small morsels. Yuqimna biha sulba, through which he can keep his or her back straight. To be able to eat enough to be able to keep your back straight. Otherwise, you're going to be falling over, stooping over because you're so malnutrition. He said, this is sufficient for the son of Adam. That much food is sufficient. You don't need more than that. And then he said, well, if you really want to eat more, then at most, it's thuluth. 1/3 for food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for, you leave it empty. Right? 1/3 you leave it empty. So this aspect, and we always hear about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That is maximum. Maximum amount is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 food, 1/3 water, and 1/3 empty. That is the maximum. And the average thing is few morsels to keep yourself running. That's it. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam lived a life like that. He did not gather in one day. As it comes, months and months would go by, years go by. He would not have meat and bread together on the same day or in the same dastarkhan, same sufra, same table. Now, it'll be most of the days, maybe dates, some water, dates and water. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, one day someone asked the wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, she says, I would see a moon, full moon, and then a full moon, and then a full moon, meaning months would come and go. Half of the month would go by, then another half. Like this would go by. And we would not ignite the stove in the oven, the stove in the fireplace inside the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there's nothing to bake. There's no roti to make. We have no wheat, we have no flour. Where are we going to make bread? So months go by without bread. Try that. Think about that. Months go by. So then someone asked her, if you don't have bread to bake, then what did you all eat? And she just said, aswadain. We had the 2 black things. What are the 2 black things? One is dates, obviously. And the other is when you have water inside a pot and you look from the top, it looks like it's black, dark. that's what she meant. We'd have dates and water. That's it. For months. This is not Ramadan. This is outside Ramadan. Daily, Rasulullah's life. And that was of the many companions. That is why a doctor came to Medina during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And he stayed there. He opened up his shop. 6 months. Eventually he closed his shop and he left. He said, I can't stay here. My office and medical practice is not working. Why? Because of the diet. Because the diet was so simple that the majority of the sicknesses come through the food. Majority of the sicknesses come through the diet. So when the diet is so less and so healthy, right, dates and zamzam, then what do you expect? And working hard, not leading an idle lifestyle the way we do. So that's why they had excellent health. And the doctor said, okay, there's no place for me to, I need to move forward. This is real. This is how the diet of the Sahaba was. But when it comes to Ramadan, it gives us a greater opportunity at least. I'm not saying we can reach at this level, but at least know where the standard is. Know where Rasulullah was. When you hear about the fasting and the Sahaba's sacrifices, a person asks himself, hey, how come Ramadan goes and comes and goes by, man, I don't feel it. If we stuff our mouth and stuff our stomachs with food, we're not going to feel it. Obviously, if we don't lead our Ramadan the way the Sahaba and the righteous elders of the past did, we're not going to feel the Ramadan. It's just going to be May and June. That's what it's going to be. Not going to be Ramadan. Ramadan will be when you make it into Ramadan. That's it. You have to make it. You have to feel it. That this is Ramadan. This is what I'm going through. No pain, no gain. If there's no hunger, there's no benefit. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi writes a lot about this in his book Ihya al-Ulum, in the Revival of Islamic Sciences, when he speaks about fasting. And he speaks about how to break these two shahwat. I told you shahwat al-batan and shahwat al-farj. The two lusts, the lust of the stomach and the lust of the private part. How do you cancel this? If you want to overcome, brothers and sisters, how do you overcome this? Through eating less. By eating less, by remaining hungry. This is the way we attack that. Everyone is complaining about lust nowadays. Everyone says, married people, not married people, everyone says we live in a very hyper-sexualized environment. How does a person protect himself or herself? How does a person protect their gaze? How does a person protect themselves from falling into sin? What should we do? What shall we do? It's a big crisis. I was just speaking at one of the Darul Ulums here yesterday. And I said, I'm going to speak about something which most teachers, most guest speakers won't speak about. I told the teachers to leave. So I'm going to speak to you all about something. I said, I'm going to speak about the big elephant in the room. And that is lust. Right? This is something that we have to address. How do you take care of that? And this is not a youth issue. This is an overall issue. And it's not a boys issue. It's a girls issue. It's everyone. This is the environment we live in. One big aspect of it, how we can control that, is by making a habit, genuinely speaking, of eating less. Now, if everyone has different levels of appetite, someone says, hey, I naturally eat less. I don't feel hungry. Well, that's not the point. A person needs to eat such that a person actually feels hungry. So less that you actually feel hungry. If you're eating less and your metabolism is very fast and you're skinny, good for you. But you need to eat even such that you actually need to feel the hunger. Before a meal, you should actually feel hungry. During iftar time, we should actually feel pain. That is why there's a narration mentioned in Ihya al-Ulum that the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have mentioned that shaitan flows through your veins the way blood flows through your veins. Inna shaitan yajri minkum majrad dam. Shaitan is instigating us to commit haram. Shaitan is instigating us to do the most unthinkable things. Shaitan is injecting us with lust and desires. How do you combat that? The Prophet ﷺ said, stop shaitan in his tracks. The only way to stop shaitan in his tracks is through al-ju', through hunger. Through hunger. Hunger is the method that we stop shaitan in his tracks. Any sister, any brother who was trying their hard, level best to remain chaste and wants to overcome their lust, this is what it is, that we make a habit of fasting. Not only month of Ramadan, but throughout the year. As much as possible, long fast in the months of summer. Summer is coming, Ramadan will end, and we still got to go through July. We still got to go through August, and you know how people dress outside. You know how the environment's outside. You know it better than I do. Some of you be taking summer classes. All sorts of fitna, all sorts of trials, tribulations, and desirable things are in front of you. How should you combat that? Well, fasting is not something limited to the month of Ramadan. Fasting is something that we have to make it a habit. The more difficult environment that you and I are living in, and the stronger desires we have, the more fasting a person needs to do. And this is how taqwa will be created within us. If a person can keep him or herself away from food, drink, which is halal, for 18 hours a day, and knowing that no one's watching if I quietly go into the bathroom in the name of wudu and sip a glass of water. No one, by Allah, no one will know. Besides Allah and my angels who are writing that. No one's going to know about it. But I'm not doing it, and neither are you. You don't even dream of doing something like that. Why is that? Because you know Allah is watching. Allah is well aware of what you do. That taqwa that comes by not eating and drinking, that which is halal the rest of the year, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though no one's watching, it will create within you an awareness, what we call istihdar. Thinking and realizing that Allah is with me, present with me, watching. That is the most important thing. That's what fasting gives us. The ability to think that Allah is with us. And my brothers and sisters, why do we sin? Simply because we forget, or we are made to forget, or we try to forget that Allah is watching. Anyone who knows Allah is watching will never be able to. When you know this big security camera is looking right at you, and you're in the cash register, what are you going to do? If your nafs also says steal something, you can't. You know this. All this is. If you didn't see it, you forgot about it. That's a different thing. But it is not possible for a person to know that he's under a watchful eye, that he can or she can meddle around with this. That is what Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran. الذين إذا ذكر الله والذين إذا فعلوا فاحشة أو ظلموا أنفسهم ذكروا الله فاستغفروا لذنوبهم. The believers and the people of taqwa are such. إذا فعلوا فاحشة, when they commit an act of lewdness, fahisha like zina, or any type of it, أو ظلموا أنفسهم, or they oppress themselves, ذكروا الله, they remember Allah. فاستغفروا لذنوبهم, and then they seek forgiveness for the sins. وَمَنْ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And tell me, who can forgive the sins besides Allah? No one can. وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. And they don't remain adamant on their sins. They do not remain adamant on their sins. Why did I mention this verse? Anyone know why I mentioned this verse? Tell me. I translated it for you. Why did I mention this verse? If you're listening to the previous one, I've mentioned the sentence before that, you'll know. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ اسْتَغْفَرُوا. Why did we mention yes?
It's because taqwa, right?
Taqwa, okay.
Taqwa.
This was yes. This is not a rhetorical question I'm asking, just to know who's listening here. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions those who do commit an act of lewdness, or they oppress themselves, ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ, then they remember Allah, and then they seek forgiveness from Allah. Yes?
Because you should, after every bad thing you do, you should do something good.
After every bad thing, you do something good. True. That this is all true things. The point I was saying is that a person commits sin because they don't remember Allah. Remember that? The only reason we commit a sin is because you forget Allah is watching. Or shaitan makes you forget that. You are overcome by desires you can't visualize that Allah is watching. That's why this ayah tells us that when these true believers, when they end up committing a sin, especially an act of lewdness, ذَكَرُوا, they remember Allah. And then immediately they seek forgiveness. That tells us that the only way we will commit sin is when we are not thinking of Allah. When we're thinking of Allah, we're not going to commit a sin. When our heart is in a state of heedlessness, what we call ghafla, that's when we commit a sin. But when we are remembering and thinking about Allah Azza wa Jal, we will not commit a sin. Okay? And that is what Ramadan is about. Fasting and tilawah of Quran to a level that always I'm conscious that Allahu Hadirin, Allahu Nadirin, Allahu Ma'i. Allah is present with me. Allah is with me. Allah is looking at me. This is what we constantly are supposed to be thinking. Allah is watching you. Huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum. He is with you wherever you may be. ما يكون من نجوى ثلاثة إلا هو رابعهم. You're not three, but Allah is the fourth. ولا خمسة إلا سادس. You're not the five, except Allah is the sixth. ولا أكثر من ذلك ولا أدنى من ذلك والأكثر. No matter how less your numbers may be, no matter how many your numbers may be, إلا هو معكم أينما كنتم. But Allah is with you wherever you may be. That istihdar. And that istihdar means realization that Allah is with me. It needs to be present. That's why the story that we heard from our mother when we were growing up, maybe I shared this here as well, maybe many of your mothers shared this story with you. that a mother brought her, invited her 3 kids, and said, "Better, sons, daughters, whoever they were, you go. I'm going to give you a sweet, a lollipop. You can go eat this." And they got all happy. But she said, "There's only one condition. You need to go eat it in a place where no one's with you." And since myself, our 3 brothers, that's why my mom would probably tell us, we're 3 boys. So then all the boys went out. First one came back after a few minutes, happy, finished and gave the lollipop stick. "I'm done, I ate the lollipop. I went and found a quiet spot in the house." Second one came, also happy. Third one came back crying. And mom would say, "Why are you crying? Look at the other 2 boys, they finished eating. What happened to you?" He says, "Mom, I went to the family room, I went to the living room, I went to your bedroom, I went to my bedroom, I went to my brother's bedroom, I went to the bathroom. I went everywhere, out to the kitchen, and I'm looking for a quiet spot. And as soon as I sit down to open up the wrapper and eat my lollipop, I'll always remember, hey, wherever I are, even though there's no one here, Allah is here. Allah is here. And now I come back because I couldn't find any spot where there is a quiet spot where I know there's no one there. Because wherever I go, I see Allah Azza wa Jalla is there." That is the simple, basic aqidah and yaqeen we all have to have. When that comes into our heart, then you will see sin will become something of the past. We won't be able to sin. So Ramadan is to create within ourselves that realization that Allah Azza wa Jalla is with me wherever I am. He knows exactly what I'm doing. Hence, it is no point in me trying to deceive Allah, trying to disobey Allah, because it is all in the knowledge of Allah. What does He say? يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla knows the treachery of the eye. You know what treachery of the eye means? When a person looks at something, haram. I'm looking at this crowd. Who am I focusing on? You can't tell at times. A person looking at the road. You're looking at a billboard. You pass it by the billboard. Are you looking at the toothpaste or are you looking at someone who's advertising the toothpaste? That's something, right? Who knows that? No one knows it. The person sitting next to you also doesn't know who you're looking at, what you're focusing on. But Allah knows. Allah knows what you're focused on. Allah knows the difference between your eyes falling upon something haram accidentally, and Allah knows those eyes that went again to that knowingly. Allah knows that. That's why He says, يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. Allah knows the treachery of the eyes. وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. And Allah knows the hidden secrets of the heart. So this realization has to come through taqwa. So Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi speaks about the aspect, the importance of jur, importance of hunger. That hunger is one very important ingredient in tackling these 2 shahawat, shahwat al-batan and shahwat al-farj. And then he mentions that usually you have to attack the batan first. If a person is able to conquer through self-control, that's a key word, self-control. If a person is able to conquer shahwat al-batan, the lust of the stomach, then the second one will be easy to conquer. Second one will be easy to conquer. Someone says, "I can't stay away from haram. I can't stay away from looking at haram. I can't stay away." But you fast 18 hours a day without eating and drinking. How do you do that? That's called willpower. That's called self-control. There's no one around you. You're a grown man. No one is sitting there with a stick saying, "Don't eat, no drink." You made that conscientious decision yourself not to do that. Correct? So that's willpower, self-control, by which we can stay away from halal, like water and food, for so many hours. Once we overcome that, then the next part, which is shahwat al-farj, which is being able to conquer the lust of the private part, will become much easier. So Ramadan has all to do with lust, conquering the lust. And the one who is able to conquer this, inshallah ta'ala, is path toward Jannah is easy. Because these are the main things. I tell my brothers and sisters, in this day and age, for especially to my young brothers and sisters, for any young brother or sister, subhanAllah, to stay away from any form of zina, and to just be able to perform their 5 times daily salah, you are a wali and a waliyah. To stay away from any form of indecency and lewdness, and to fulfill your basic obligation of salah, will be, inshallah ta'ala, you'll be counted amongst the awliya. Inshallah, you'll be counted amongst the friends of Allah, with regards to whom Allah says, "Ala inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun." Listen, the friends of Allah, at the time of death, they will be told, you have nothing to grieve over the past and nothing to fear for the future. Everything is set for you. You are the friend of Allah. I know it's very difficult, because I work with the youth, and I know how hard it is for you to be able to protect themselves. But you are murabitun. You know what murabitun is? Murabitun are those who are on the borders. Those who are on the borders of I know it's the security guards, the army and the border. They have the most difficult job. That's where the army is going to attack. The enemy's army. So the youth today are the murabitun. They have such a hard time being able to protect themselves from haram. But if you can do that, inshallah ta'ala, I have expectations and hope from Allah Azza wa Jalla that you will be raised amongst the most righteous and pious people. What will help you? This Ramadan that's coming. And do not stop here. Make it a habit. Make it a habit that we're going to continue fasting throughout the summer and beyond, as long as we need to. Mondays and Thursdays, or 13th and 14th or 15th of the month. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi speaks about 3 levels of fast in his book. So one basic level of fast that we understand is that stay away from food, drink, and marital relationship. Khalas, my fast is done. Then no matter what I do. That is something very, very basic. Instead, if we want the ruh and the spirit of fasting, we have to go beyond that. And what is that? That it should not be that merely nothing goes down our throat or that our stomach is fasting. Instead, our entire body needs to fast. So what does that mean? Our eyes need to fast, our ears need to fast, our tongue needs to fast, our hands and feet need to fast, our stomach needs to fast, our private part needs to fast, our heart needs to fast. Every portion of our body needs to fast. How does our eyes fast? That in this month of Ramadan, we have to ensure, if we want to gain the benefit of this Ramadan, that we are not looking at things which are impermissible and even unnecessary things. The biggest source of haram nowadays is what? What is it? Yeah, but what's the source of it? Smartphones, right? Okay, so we remember, I'm not a new face here. Every time I come here, you probably, those of you who come regularly to the talks that I come here, I always speak about this somehow or another. Because why? This is definitely the biggest fitna. There was a time growing about 30 years ago, 20 years ago, many uncles and aunties, our grandmothers, our grand aunts, 70, 80, 90-year-olds, they spent the entire Ramadan day, even the rest of the year as well, mashallah, getting up 2 hours before Fajr Salah, flipping pages after pages after pages after pages, reading Quran. So much they read that the entire pages got torn. Then they had to get new siparas for them, and they tore that also. Non-stop, just so much they read. Yes, the corners and the borders all became, they disappeared. I can't say they went at the end of it. They got shrugged out, they fell out, they lost they lost the luster for it or whatever, thickness of it. Instead, they actually disappeared. Because I'm thinking about my own grandmother, how she used to be, and what her siparas and juice used to look like. That's how we grew up. We saw her just reading every single day. She didn't have teeth. She had dentures. She suffered growing up from all sorts of diseases. And all her siblings passed away. SubhanAllah, she could not recite Quran properly all her life because of those sicknesses. She was survived. She was the only surviving child. Everyone else passed away. But that didn't stop her from reading all the time. 8 juz, 6 juz, 10 juz a day. Or more. But now what's happened? We live in an era, because of this horrible, disgusting epidemic of the smartphone, the people of her age, instead of reading Quran, are watching movies, are watching Bollywood, Hollywood, and whatever else in their languages, sitting there watching, at the very least, WhatsApp videos. This is not something to laugh about. If you have a grandmother and grandfather, and they're going through that, you should be crying. Because if your grandmother and grandfather were in the 70s and 80s, 10 years ago, they wouldn't be doing that right now. They would be actually reading Quran. But today's old grandparents, what are they doing? I'm saying all of them, of course not. But a lot of them have got their own phones, and they're sitting there watching all this nonsense. The last 10 years of life, last 5 years of life, maybe the last year of their life, they never watched movies before. They never listened to music before. They never listened to watch dramas. They were good, clean people. But now, they are faced with this fitna that they never thought about. It's called the smartphone. It's called the S6. It's called the S10. It's called the iPhone 10, whatever the case may be. And subhanAllah, the kids go to school, the kids go to work, and the auntie and dada, the DG sitting at home. What they do, they pull out the phone and watching things. I'm telling you the real story. Sorry if it hurts, but this is the reality. This is what's happening in our homes. Okay? So it is not only affecting the youth, it's killing our adults. If the old men and women, 70, 80, 90-year-olds are going to be devoid of spirituality, what do you expect about the little kids? What are you going to do? We have reached where we have reached, and we're so full of sins and weakness. When we literally grew up, I grew up in my grandmother's lap. I slept in her lap the whole time. And all I heard was her Quran, reading Quran. She's the one who raised me. And this is where we're at. If we have grandparents somehow watching movies all the time, what's going to expect of the grandkids? What are they going to become? What are the kids going to become if the parents are doing the same? And if ulama are doing the same, and if hafad are doing the same, yes, there is no one exempt from this. May Allah forgive me and forgive us. All of us, we are in a very, very, very difficult era. We have no idea what we've come about against. This Trojan horse called a smartphone is the biggest challenge that probably the Ummah has ever faced. I kid you not. I'm saying this. I kid you not. The destruction that it has caused, if it can take muftis and ulama down the drain, if it can take Shaykh al-Hadiths down the drain, if it can take imams down the drain, if it can take grandparents down the drain, what do you expect with the rest of the Ummah? It has already done that. It's ruined our family structures. It's ruined our spirituality. It has ruined our Ramadan. It's ruined our i'tikaf. It's ruined our 15th night of Sha'ban, our Yawm al-Arafah. It's ruined our Umrah trips, our Hajj trips. Okay. So it's time for us to recognize that this epidemic, this disease, is the worst thing that we've ever come across. Because the majority of people do not have self-control. Majority of people don't have the sensibility, the taqwa, to understand that this is a double-edged sword. It is a loaded AK-47. Yeah, it can protect you from an enemy, but you can end up killing your entire family in a second. It's an automatic, not even a semi-automatic, an automatic weapon. You press a button, in 1 second, the entire relatives are all gone, dead. This is the type of thing. It can create fire in the home. Fire within the home. There are countless divorces. I can get you, I bet you maybe you can say 7 out of 10 divorces are because of this. Of the smartphone. Misusage of it. So Ramadan is a moment, is a time when we fast. Is a time to prove to you. How many of you think, okay, I don't want to ask a rhetorical question, I want to ask you. I would ask you, how many of you think you're an addict, a phone addict? Right? So a lot of us think we're not. But most of us are. If you're one of those people, if you don't have your phone and you're reaching in your pocket, you're an addict. If you're one of those people, subhanAllah, that you're thinking that you literally, if you lose your phone, you don't have it with you, you feel like you've lost everything, you've lost a portion of your identity. You can lose your child, lose your mom, dad, whatever. Okay, as long as I got my charger, as long as I got my phone, I'm okay. Look at the fikr, that in the haram now, also they're building now phone charging stations everywhere. Because this is it, this is the reality. People can't survive without it. Cannot survive without the phone. It has become an extended organ, extra heart that we didn't know. Allah says He didn't put 2 hearts in your chest, but now we got another heart. It's called the beating of the smartphone. Okay? So if we feel that we're addicted or we feel that we're not, the ones who feel they're addicted, mashallah, they're one step ahead. They realize that they are in the problem. And the ones who don't feel they're addicted, actually probably are involved in what we call Jahrul Murakkab. They don't realize their problem. And if you don't realize what the problem is, then the treatment is very difficult. Treatment is very difficult. Okay. So this month of Ramadan is an opportunity for me and you, and for us, to kind of detox ourselves from the cell phone, from the smartphone. Cutting down the usage of it. Maybe deleting WhatsApp, deleting Viber, deleting Instagram, of course. And deleting all the other, of course, Facebook apps and so forth. Deleting those things for the month. And then you say, mashallah, 29 days. Wow, I'm still alive. I'm breathing, hands are working, everything, mashallah ta'ala. 29 days without Facebook, 29 days without WhatsApp, 29 days without social media, 29 days without me checking the news, 29 days without Netflix, 29 days without YouTube. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. That means I really don't need these things. Because when you tell people that you can live your life without it, they say, no, you can't. How can you say you cannot live? I have to. So let us use the month of Ramadan. Maybe the people don't understand English. Possibly they're getting upset that it's not being translated. I don't know. They do understand English. Alright. So a person needs to utilize this month to detox themselves from this. So you have different levels. I know some people, they just put it away. They switch over to a non-smart, a dumb phone which will make you smart, basically. And they'll switch over to that. Others will just delete their apps. That's what I would recommend. Why did I start off this whole discussion? With fasting, the first thing, along with the stomach, number one, you gotta make your eyes fast. As they say that the heart, Imam Ghazali rahmallah, it's attributed to him, that is like a pond. And there are 4 streams that are leading to this pond. One is the eyes, one is the ears, one is the tongue, one is the mind. And they're all 4 streams leading into the pond. If what you pour into these streams is clean, pure water, then the pond will be obviously very clean and pure. And if you pour very filthy, polluted water into these 4 streams, then there's no doubt about it, no surprise that the pond will be dirty, najis. So what did I say those 4 streams are? The eyes, the ears, the mind and the tongue. If we ensure, what time is it? 9:15. 9:30. Huh? 9:30. Yeah, every time क्या हो रहा है? What time is it now? 9:13. Okay. So you just remind me at 25, inshallah. So if we have to make sure that our eyes, our tongue, our mind, and our heart is clean, then our heart will be clean. Again, let me repeat. Our what we see has got to be halal. What we listen has got to be halal. What we ponder and think has to be halal. Yes, ponder and think. Imagination has got to be halal, and what we speak has got to be halal and pure. If you have, then you'll have a pure heart. If you have pure thoughts, pure eyes, pure ears, and pure tongue, you'll have a beautiful, clean heart. And anytime we muddle this with shahwa, with lust, with evil things, then unfortunately the heart is going to become dirty. What are you going to do with the dirty heart? Fast all you want. What can we do with the dirty heart? We have to clean up our, purify ourselves by number one, making our eyes fast. Don't look at haram. Train ourselves in the month of Ramadan not to look at haram. And inshallah ta'ala, my brothers and sisters, my youth, I beg Allah Azza wa Jalla to grant you and I the tawfiq to allow us to stay far away from the evils of the internet. How you say, but I am, how do I do that? There's no one amongst the brothers and sisters here who say, I just came to sit here for the sake of sitting here. I don't care about changing. I'm hoping my Ramadan comes out horrible. I'm sure there's not a single one of you who can say this. All of you want to make your Ramadan the best. But we have these addictions, we have these problems. What I suggest is, if you're serious about change, and you are, right? Then in this case, when it comes to the smartphones, you work with someone, work with a brother, a sister, a sibling, a friend, and you say, listen, can we, those of you, mashallah, technologically advanced brothers, deacons, sisters, you can root your phones, delete of YouTube. Look at how they made it. You can't even delete YouTube as an app. And they don't allow you to do it. Most phones. Unless you go through the rooting process. Most phones. Maybe they have some different ones. So you get that. And then after that, so many of these apps, the person says, I want to delete it, but I keep on installing it. So you have to get help. This addiction cannot be solved on its own. You need help. Okay? You need help. So go to someone. I had a student, after I gave this discussion, he came to me, and he actually, mashallah, another word, he said, okay, I need help. What should I do? I said, okay, that's what you're going to do. You're going to go, and you're going to download certain apps, which are like parental apps. And you put passwords on all these things. These type of adult websites cannot be visited. Everything's got to be safe search, right? All in safe search, so the bad images, bad things don't show up. And then the password, I will put in the password for you. So then he came, he said, here I am. I got rid of this app. Now, if I want to install the app, I have to get the password. And you type in the password. Okay, it's a problem solved. So now even if shaitan tries to attack this person, they're not able to do so. At least the first level of protection is there. So I would say is that it's not just say, Ya Allah, I want to be pious, I want to make this Ramadan different, I want to be really clean. No, by wishful thinking doesn't get you anywhere. You have to make proper steps, take proper steps. And one of the first proper steps is you need to reach out for help. Speak to a brother, a sister, a counselor, a ustad, imam, whoever you trust. And I am speaking about this openly. So you brothers and sisters have now an opportunity to speak amongst yourselves afterwards. When you're with friends, you came here, you can talk, hey man, what they said. Because it's kind of awkward to bring up this discussion on your own. So I'm bringing up the discussion for you. So you can figure out how you go about doing that. But it requires help from one another. And then someone said, well, I don't look at haram, but I just, just a drama, just a movie, a documentary. But at the very least, if anything, if it's all, there's no non-mahram, who is not properly clothed in any of those things, and there's no music, and all this type of stuff, it still is a waste of time. Ramadan has not been there to sit there and watch Ramadan channels. Ramadan is a time to connect ourselves with the Quran. You watch all the bayans, lectures afterwards. Right now, focus on not watching, but reading the Quran itself. Reading the Quran itself. So phone itself, just don't bring it to the masjid. Keep it off. Work with someone. Get rid of those apps. The nights are short and the most valuable. The last thing you want to do is you being on your phone at that time. Right? So this is some basic tips. There's what's this called? Purified Eyes. I think so. It's called Purified Eyes. There's one of these websites that focuses on this. You can take a look. It's a Muslim organization that runs and offers help and counseling to these type of issues. Purified Glances, possibly. I'm forgetting the name, but if you search for it, you should be able to find that website. After eyes is going to be the ears. Soul, fasting of the ears. That main thing, not listening to backbiting, not listening to hateful talk, not listening to music, yes. Not going to, what is the benefit of fasting? A person is going to the gym listening to music, running to the music, while listening to Taraweeh and they say, beautiful tilawah, and then hits the gym listening to music. Or going to bed at night, subhanAllah, instead of listening to Quran, listening to music. It will kill the heart. It will kill the heart. It will kill that spirituality. All the spirituality. You say, why is the Quran not affecting my heart? Why am I leading a double life, two-faced life? Even those of us who are leading Taraweeh, those of our Huffaz, ask yourselves. Many of the Huffaz, they're involved in this. Of course, general people are there, but many of those who lead Taraweeh, they listen to music by day, leading Taraweeh by night. What do you expect is going to come out of that? If we ourselves are reading Quran like this, what do you expect the crowd behind us to benefit from this? So those of us who are leading Taraweeh and who are in the front, we have to be extra careful, go the extra mile. It's a big honor Allah is giving you. You don't want Allah Azza wa Jalla to snatch it away from you. You don't want to darken the heart by committing these type of sins. So keeping the ears clean from this type of haram. And then keeping the tongue clean. What is that? Again, backbiting, big sin. Speaking ill to your parents, giving back answers, etc. Do you know, you probably heard the hadith during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. He was informed of two women who were very, very hungry. You heard about this? Very, very hungry. On the verge of dying, starving. The Prophet ﷺ said, invite, call them over here. They came. And then the Prophet ﷺ gave them a bowl. And he asked them to vomit in the bowl. He said, how can we vomit in the bowl when we're about to pass out of starvation? But this was a miracle of the Prophet. He said, no, I want you to try. And then when they vomited, fresh pieces of flesh with blood came out from their stomach. And this was a manifestation of the ayah. لا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه. Do not backbite one another. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother? Right? Dead brother? No, you wouldn't. So Allah Azza wa Jalla in this story allowed Rasulullah to show, manifest that this is what these women were doing. They were backbiting, and because of that, even though they didn't eat anything, but look here, right there when they vomit, the flesh came out. That's one thing we learn. Backbiting is a horrible sin we should not involve in anytime, especially fasting. And number two, the ulama say that when a person sins, then his fast will become more difficult. I feel the fast. Fast will become more difficult and challenging when a person sins. And the person who doesn't sin, inshallah, the fast will become easy for them. So we have to protect our tongue from backbiting. One of my shaykh, he would mention from one of our haqsa that that the best way to protect yourself from backbiting is simply not talk about anyone who is not present in the gathering. We start off praising someone, and very quickly we end up the big. We say but, magar, lekin, lakin, and then we start saying he's got this problem, she's got this problem. How often? Just what? How often we start praising someone, and then shaitan immediately he takes us off rail, and we start backbiting. So his rule was that simply, if the person is not in the gathering, don't speak about it. If he's not in front of you, don't talk about it. Even if you want to praise him, wait till he comes back, so that you completely close off the doors of backbiting. So that's protecting the tongue. If you're in business, not lying, cheating, selling something which is not right, etc. Then comes the stomach. Not just eating, not eating the whole day, no. But at the time of iftar, to ensure that we're eating 100% halal, tayyib food. This halal tayyib food is not that it's properly slaughtered, it doesn't have haram pork enzymes, etc. That's all important. But beyond that, the food that we're buying and eating and serving needs to be purchased through halal income. Halal income. If the income is halal, then alhamdulillah, that's true tayyib. But if no matter how halal slaughtered it may be, the meat be, but if the income is haram, then that's definitely going to have an effect on what we're eating. So how sad it is that a person fasts for the sake of Allah, then unfortunately at iftar time is eating haram food. Either earnings are haram or the actual food is haram. No use. No use. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said there are rubba sa'im. There are many who fast, they get nothing from their hunger except for nothing from their fast except for hunger. No spiritual benefit at all. Rubba qa'im. And there are many who stand at night, they get no spiritual benefit except for losing sleep. Why is that? Because internal aspects, what is my talk have been from the beginning till now? The fiqhul batin, the fiqh of internal aspects. This is not a seminar on the fiqh of zahir. That you should do, and you will probably have, or already done. The
the fiqh of what breaks fast and stuff. That's the external aspects. I'm speaking about the internal aspects. Okay? So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made it very clear. There's many who fast, they get nothing out of fast except for hunger. Why? Although they